on stone and would show you. I don't see that. Indefinitely. There are several along here. I think this one is good too. But of course, you know, it's subject to the elements for decades now, and any evidence of use wear is slowly deteriorating. But I think it's a good one.
And they would be
Tied together at the top, bark laid over to keep the rain off, and a hole in the middle, so you built a fire inside and you had a smoke. Here is the Hewitt history of the site, but there's more to the history here. Native American, which I've already pointed out to you, is the original part of the history here. In the middle of the 1700s, the iron industry was started here, so that they were producing iron with a blast furnace where the barns are today, and other iron-related structures were there. And then, of course, the Hewitt era. So you've got three basic periods of culture history here. So not only the Hewitt. William Van Dunk, or Ramapo, lived in the area with William Van Dunk Sr. in 1977. I've looked at this, and I think it's a pretty good one. So, yes.
Were they naturally formed that the Indians just used something they found that was natural, or did they?
I'm going to continue down this way.
Ed?
Yep, I'm sorry.
Can I tell a story about John Bean real quick?
Sure.
Well, I didn't want my friend John Bean had one of the oldest houses in Wanakee, probably in years. And he has the deed signed by the skin. And I see they were here and he's got a deed signed by them, so we definitely some.
Even the early archaeologists said that the Indians were gone from this area, and especially from the highlands. They said, no, India wasn't going to stay here in the highlands. The house that you see up on there, I don't know the date on that. Marie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you know how old it is?
No, I don't.
Off the top of my head. Anyway, during the Hewitt era, the Hewitts hired a handle, a wooden handle. This is a pestle, which was used in the mortars. And these pointed pieces of stone here, they were old-fashioned out of local material. Incidentally, it's made out of what's called chert, not flint. We don't have flint here. Flint is a European of the night and of the world below us. Their spirit or energy is very powerful and can be dangerous. At night, when people hear an owl hoot off in the distance, they think it was a witch and become very fearful. And among the Mayan people here, there are several stories of witches. And I'll talk about that more later on. It also, the legend also says that witches and the shamans, which were medicine people, had the ability to change themselves into owls and fly around at night. Of course, that's all myths and legends. But several of these stories were recorded from the Lenape before they, they're published now in several books. This is Owl Brook. Okay. Algonquin people who had a common language. The Indians throughout the Northeast here were Algonquian-speaking people.
Including Lenik.
And they created what they called, on rock surfaces, petroglyphs. They pecked images on rock, something like on my shirt here. And rock art is one of my specialties. I've published a number of books on American Indian rock art. And guess what I found? Owls pecked into rock surfaces. They're beautiful.
Where did you find these? What part of what area were they?
Well, this one on the this let me point out here. This one was from Massachusetts. This one is from New York State, and this one is from Maine. Calling them indigenous people, those that were here first in the original ones. Okay, you're standing in an area that historically is known as the magazine block. Doesn't talk about Look magazine or Life or anything. It refers to the Revolutionary War period, during which the ironworks were producing iron and munitions for the war effort. And on this property, there was located here a magazine, a powder magazine, a building in which they stored gunpowder and other munitions for use by any troops that came through the area, and also used by the miners as blasting. The mines, incidentally, were over this hill on the other side. And that's where most of the Lenape people in Ringwood live today. So this was called the magazine lot. The Hewitts took over the property, as I said, in the 1850s, and Mrs. Hewitt wanted to get rid of all the references. She wanted to turn this into a country estate. So anything that had to do with iron manufacturing, she ultimately destroyed. So this magazine lot was destroyed in 1870. We know that as a fact. And before it was destroyed, the census records for the Ringwood area at that period of time, 1850, 1860, 1870, indicated that Ramapo Lenape people lived inside this building here. So I have no idea. There are no drawings of how big it was and so on. But they were living here, and at one time there were at least 6 or 8 people, Ramapo people, and we have their names. So they were living here, and of course, when she decided to destroy the building, they had to move elsewhere. At that time, census records called this no longer the magazine lot, they called it the building, the arsenal. Now, I'll show you where I think it was located and why I think it's low area. And how do I know this was important? Well, believe it or not, in the late 1960s, I was a junior archaeologist at Fort Montgomery. And the first job I was assigned to was to excavate the powder magazine at Fort Montgomery, 1776 or something like that. And it was built that way. Sides were built up, so if the blast went off, it didn't go sideways, it went up into the air. So I'm speaking from experience. I worked hard digging a powder magazine from the same era of time. So, now, one of the interesting things that's in the collection of from those mines, bringing them down this Indian trail over to the blast furnace by the manor. And I was going to take you to see a mine hole called the Indian Farm Mine. It's in the records. So they actually made it. It's about 300, 400 feet up this trail, off to the right. Caroline Van Dunk, daughter of John and Mary, who died March 16, 1846, age 8 years, 1 month, and 14 days. It's the only one. Now there was supposedly here, the records indicate that there was a second stone here, probably right about where that gentleman is standing. It's gone. And in that one was the burial stone of a John Van Dunk, 1871 to 1872, son of George and Rachel. That's the only two documented ones. But if you wander around the cemetery here, you'll see a lot of ordinary field stones. I believe those may very well be.
Look at them. Oh, Jeff, when you take your pictures upward, would you take of my friends that are flying over?
Good work with Jeff. There's been made some small additions to the
Yeah.